Now we'll find out what is concept of Sita. I deliberately use word concept because it is more than a person. It is a concept where a helpless woman is abducted by force from mainland India to Sri Lanka. To understand Sita, but first understand Lanka. What is Lanka? Lanka is a general term for island. Now let us see the flag of Lanka. It's a very peculiar flag, very attractive, a very impressive flag, where a lion is depicted with sword in hand. An impressive lion, and that lion's name is Simbahu, a person with a lion like hands and feet, a powerful figure. From where that figure came. And the second peculiar thing about Lanka is language. It's called as Sinhalese language or Singhala language, spoken by Singhala race. Peculiar thing about Indian languages is there are two broad groups: Dravidian languages and Indo-Aryan languages or Indo-European languages. Indo-European languages are everywhere except South India. But Sri Lanka is also is in South, Maldives is in South, but Maldives and Sri Lanka languages are not Dravidian languages. They are Indo-Aryan or Indo-European languages according to experts. This is little bit peculiar. So this Singhala flag, Singhala language, Singhala race, and this little bit distinction from South India, mainland India, can be explained by seeing the background of Lanka. Lanka is one of the islands in Indian Ocean, like Andaman, Nicobar, Lakshadweep, Maldives, and Lanka. So, who were the first inhabitants? Who came to Lanka first? Just like other islands, they were from Africa. African immigrants came to Lanka and settled there, came to Maldives and settled there. And they had their own system of governance, own culture. And according to history, it was a matrilineal culture. Means the woman is more powerful than man as far as administration is concerned. The chief of all Maldivian islands are known to be ladies. There will be small, small queens. All the Maldivian islands and Sri Lankan areas, they were ruled by queens, not by king. So this is very unusual. And these queens had an ultimate say in day-to-day management, forming the rules and deciding the course of action. That was going on for quite some time. Then a new development happened. That was discovery of gold. That's why it's called as Golden Lanka. Sri Lanka was one of the biggest sources of precious stones and gold. Naturally, when the gold is there, people will come, and people came. And if you see the history of Maldives and history of Sri Lanka, a common theme running in all these kings is the first king of Sri Lanka or first king of Maldives always was a banished prince from Kalinga. Kalinga is a big maritime empire, affect, actually going from all the east coast of India, west coast of India, a lot of colonies abroad in Malaysia, Sumatra, Burma, everywhere. So, if you see the Maldivian king, Maldivian prince first came from Kalinga, who usual story is Kalingan king banishes his prince and he goes by ship and lands into Maldives. Again, Kalingan king banishes his prince, again lands into Sri Lanka. Now there are two directions in which these kings and princes, so called banished from their fathers and all those come. One is from Orissa, and second peculiarly is from Gujarat and Maharashtra. One is Suparaka, that is Nala Sopara, present day port in Maharashtra coast, or Bhadoj, where the Narmada ends and ends into the sea. So Bhadoj, Nala Sopara, and Orissa, these ships will come and land there. Initial projection of that is they play a victim card, means we have been banished by our fathers and let us settle there. Why they have to play this victim card? Because it is a closely guarded actually secret there, is that these people, African people who settled there in these islands, they were cannibals. Still, in Andaman Nicobar Islands, there are many no-go areas where outsider cannot go. because he can be actually eaten by the people. So that protected their all those natural resources for so many centuries. But now the condition was different. According to mythology, Sri Lankan mythology, the first king who came from Kalinga to Sri Lanka was Prince Vijaya. Prince Vijaya was actually banished, as usual, by Simhabahu. Simhabahu is actually a son of lion and a princess. Now, this is not naturally possible, but according to history, lion is the forefather. Lion actually had marriage or whatever forced marriage with the princess, and the princess was a Kalingan princess, and the child is called as Simhabahu. This Simhabahu actually ends up killing his own father, that is Simha, and then he establishes his rule in Kalinga, and his son is banished from Kalinga and comes here. So rather than going into all those details, but to see the running themes in Sri Lankan and Maldivian folklore and mythology, is typical thing is lion is always there, and abducted princess is always there, and father is not happy with the son, or son not happy with the father, son ends up killing the father, and that sort of things are there. Now, this particular thing is we can take it as not as evidence, as a mythology. Now, what is the historical event which changes everything? The historical event is Kalinga War again. So that is 461 to 462 BC. So these 2 years the Great War was happening, and ultimately ends up into decisive victory of Mauryas against the Kalingas. Ashoka wins the war and destroys the this one Kalinga Empire, maritime empire. Now after that, according to Ashoka himself, 1.5 lakh people are banished. They are not allowed to enter Kalinga again. So they actually are banished by ship, and they are forced to leave Kalinga and settle elsewhere. Where is elsewhere? Is for settling the unsettled lands. Now these unsettled lands happen to be the lands where a lot of natural resources are there. That is gold and precious stones. That is Sri Lanka and Maldives. Now you can imagine the amount of demographic disruption happening here. Now, demographic description we have to understand by seeing the population of Sri Lanka. At present, population of Sri Lanka is only 2.2 crore. According to British, according to 150 years back, the census says that it was only 20 lakh. Now we can see what population will be there 2000 years back. Be very less, hardly few thousands. And suddenly these big ships start coming from Kalinga, and those people who are banished, able-bodied people, they are warrior-like people, who have been separated, brutalized, away from their family, and they end up into Sri Lankan island. The number is 1.5 lakh. So this sort of demographic disruption is at the core of this story called Ramayana. Now, imagine situation where there are three types of people there in Sri Lankan or Maldivian islands. One is the original inhabitants, that is those who are shifted from Africa, supposedly cannibal. They are actually ruled by matrilineal system. Second is the early actually the people from mainland India, from both sides of coast and settling there. And third is the biggest exodus. That is 1.5 lakh people coming, all men, no women, as coming suddenly and settling into this sort of island. Now, another story is there. The original story of Sri Lanka's foundation is very peculiar. The queen of Sri Lanka at that time was one lady, fierce lady. They depict as a Rakshasi, but as a person called as Kuveni. Now, this Kuveni, when this initial exodus, initial people come, 700 people from Nala Suppara, she tries to eat them, kill them all. And the Prince Vijaya fights a battle with her, and during the battle, she falls in love with the prince. And now she proposes to the prince that marry me. He says that I will marry you with you only on one condition. All my 700 people whom have been dead, now you have to make them alive by magic. And they are made alive and they marry and all. Here the problem happens of divided loyalty. Now Kuveni should be loyal to the husband, or Kuveni should be loyal to the original clan, and she prefers the former. She becomes loyal to the husband, she betrays her own people, and Prince Vijaya, the mainland person, actually takes over the kingdom of Sri Lanka. and they are actually separated. So this story is a metaphor of actually three types of people and their power struggle in between that. Now these 1.5 lakh people coming there, now they are in a difficult situation. On one hand, they can't go back to Kalinga, they can't marry sufficient amounts. There are no females actually, or Kalingan females there, only males are there. And third thing is, if they try to actually interact and marry or have any relationship with original inhabitants, they are known to be cannibals. So you will get married on one day, next day you can be eaten. So that sort of situation was very peculiar. And this situation, actually, so far we have actually going by existing history or all the depictions in Mahavansha. And the running theme behind it is actually the natural resources of Sri Lanka and the peculiar position of Sri Lanka in the maritime trade. So at this point of time, what will happen? Because now the Mauryan Empire has taken over whole India, and at the same time, Mauryan Empire is projecting its power via Sri Lanka. But Sri Lanka is left with such a huge mass of people who are separated from their families, all men, and those people who are very good in navigation. They are masters of the seas. Now here the history ends and imagination starts. Now hence forward, what imagination is, that it's entirely imagination. There is no evidence for that. But going by the circumstantial evidence, going by the peculiar situation lasting there for at least 2 to 3 decades, where these people crossing the gulf between Tamil Nadu, present day Tamil Nadu, and Sri Lanka, and actually trying to have some relationship with the mainland Indians. Well, naturally, these people are actually people who are being banished, who will take the risk and refusal of the proposal and following the mass kidnapping of ladies and women from mainland India. Now, this is completely guesswork. There is no evidence for that. I agree. But circumstances, and if you go to the details of this one, and reading between the lines, this particular event was quite possible. And based on that, then here comes a time when actually common people from mainland India take the things in their own hand. They can't complain to the king because king is afraid of Mauryas. These guys are from Maurya projected Sri Lankan kingdom. They can't defend themselves, and they can't actually control the things. People are coming from island, taking the ladies back, women, and abducting them and keeping them there as captive. So that might be the trigger for the very unusual war, where common people they cross the sea and go into this island and defeat Suratissa and then reclaim the kingdom and stopping the practice of this mass kidnapping. So, according to our logic, Sita is not a person. Sita is a concept where just because you are supported by emperor, just because you are good in some navigation skills, just because you don't have any sufficient actually women with you, you don't have a right to just come and take from each home women forcibly and keep them as their own wives. So this particular situation is up so far is guesswork. But one thing is true in Buddhist philosophy or preaching. One thing is very peculiar thing is there. I will just mention it. Once one situation happened that Buddha was preaching to his disciples, and he openly told that actually we should every man should marry with 4 wives. Then people ask this, what is this going on? Actually, on one hand, you are practicing all those things and you are preaching that we should marry 4 wives. So he said it is not something. He told a story on that. Once one man actually was actually having 4 wives and he was actually suffering from some illness and he was going to die. He knew it. So he knew that actually after death I will go to the next life and all those hell or heaven or something. So he asked his first wife, his most favorite wife, I'm dying. Will you come with me? She said, boss, no. This one. You love me, I love you, it's okay as long as you are alive. But after death, you follow your own this one. I'm not going to come with you. Then he asked his second wife. She also said the same thing. Third wife said the same thing. Fourth wife said, no, no, this one, I'm going to come with you. And that wife was actually not liked by that husband. So, what is the moral of the story? He said this one is that after death, actually, our body here, we consider ourselves, we leave it, go to the next birth. Our wealth, we leave it, go to the next birth. Our name, fame, image, and all, we leave it, next birth. What we carry is only the fourth one, that is our karma. Whatever papa punya you have gathered in this life, we actually carry to the next life. That is your fourth wife. That was a metaphor, that was a story. But what happens, just like we see commonly, sometimes one good prophet, good philosopher tells something to his disciples, in something he wants to convey some meaning out of it. But people are selfish. People are notorious. People, they take very selectively from these great thinkers' preachings, and then they start having no. Marrying four wives is told by Buddha or someone else, and that particular notoriety. And once they get power backed by the empire, what happens is that they think it is good, and that has to be objected, that has to be opposed. And that what opposition and whatever happened is what we call as Ramayana. Now this is not a scientific or expert or evidence based opinion, it's just a thought. But in next video, we'll come to the clinching evidence. Clinching evidence, even actually accepted by the expert about exact time frame or time range of Ramayana. That we'll see in our next video. Thank you.